Are you a girl who wants to be an influencer or a content creator? Well, I went to my first ever influencer event, and here's everything I learned. A little bit about me. I am a new YouTuber. I started YouTube about a year ago, and I've primarily been doing things that I'm interested in doing. I don't have like a really specific niche, but art, lifestyle, beach, traveling, that kind of sort of stuff. And I've been eager for an opportunity to meet other people who are like me, especially in my area, but I just hadn't really come across that many. A few things that I had gotten wrong before I went to my first ever event as a quote unquote content creator was that I thought these events were kind of these big orchestrated, big company, big ticket type of brands who like really had their shit together, and I thought all the girls who went to these kind of things were like super popular Instagram models, like, baddie energy. But in reality, these girls weren't really what I had envisioned. That's not to say that they're not baddies, but they just weren't like the picture that I was thinking. And the event wasn't really what I thought it'd be. And so this event in particular was a really big learning opportunity for me. I had decided that I was ready to start getting myself out there and start advertising myself as a YouTuber. I kind of felt like a little imposter because at the time when I started looking for groups in my area of people who also were doing content, I only had 53 subscribers. And my biggest supporters are my mom and dad. So to me, I was like, yeah, right. Somebody's gonna look me up and be like, this girl is a lot of bullshit. But I found a newly made Facebook page for girls in my area who were content creators or influencers. I felt really delusional thinking that this group was for me, but I don't know. I just felt drawn to try it out. I explained to the group that I was super beginner, new to making content, but I was excited to join their group chat and to get to know them. I dropped my Instagram, my YouTube, and I dropped a few little clips of things that I had done. And about a week later, a girl who had started a local beach picnic setup formally invited everybody in the group to this event that she wanted to host. She wanted us to join her for a sleepover, like a girls' slumber karaoke sleepover backyard cinema thing to show off her big like inflatable backyard cinema. And she said it was open for all influencers, models, photographers, or any brands that wanted to collaborate. I felt super weird considering myself as a model, but the invite said content creators too. So I was like, that's me. That's me. I wanted to join. It looked fun. It was free. Like, what was there to lose? And I wanted to meet girls who were also doing their thing on YouTube or TikTok or whoever. I wanted to meet other girls like moi. And so I added myself to the list. The next day, I showed it to the girls at my work who I knew also did YouTube and TikTok. And I showed it to them and I was like, hey, this looks like a fun opportunity. Like, would you come with me? This is what they're doing, blah, blah, blah. And all of them were like, oh, yeah, that looks good. That looks fun. Yeah. I think I more so wanted to invite them because I felt awkward about showing up without knowing anybody. You know, when you show up at the party and your bestie's not there and you just go and like pet the family dog or something because you don't know. Maybe that's a me thing, but I'm very socially anxious. So I think I just more so did it because I didn't want to be alone and I didn't want to not know anybody. So I think that was a safety net for myself. And for 2 weeks, I thought they were gonna come with me, but the day before the event, I brought it up again, and they were like, "Oh, I forgot," or the other one was like, "Nah, I don't want to go anymore." I was nervous about if I should still show up because how embarrassing. But then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, okay, I need to put into practice things that I've learned from other content creators on YouTube giving their advice. Is that a lot of them say to remember that being cringe is part of the deal. Like, you have to feel a little uncomfortable. You have to feel a little bit cringy about what you're doing because not everybody's going to be doing this, you know? They always say, like, when you only have 30 views, when you have no subscribers, like, this is the time to push through that struggle and be consistent and be patient, and that you have to start showing up as the creator that you want to be. Period. Period. And I thought about a year ago, Alicia, how she would have never dared to do something like this because this was so out of her comfort zone. I thought about how, like, oh, I would never get caught doing something like this by myself. But then I thought about future me, Alicia, in a year, and how this is the type of stuff she does all the time. She feels so comfortable doing this. This is so her vibe. Like, yeah, it makes sense for future her, you know. When I think about myself, when I'm I sound conceited as hell. When I think about who I want to be in the future and I'm like looking up to my higher self, this is totally on her radar. Like, I have to start showing up as future Alicia. How else am I going to get there? So that was my first lesson. I can't be afraid to do things that I hope future me does all the time. Even if I didn't feel ready, this was still a really good opportunity for me to just try it out. I wanted to show up as my most confident self, my most beautiful self, and so I went shopping. I went and I got myself a cute little set of pajama pants. I got like a silky satin thing. I didn't go on Amazon because I still don't like Bezos. So I went to Marshall's and I didn't have that much money, but I spent a fraction of what I would have bought like in an actual store. But I just got these cute Juicy Couture pajamas, a pair of bunny slippers, and I felt like a baddie in the dressing room. I was like, ew. I feel so cute. I feel so cute. If I feel cute now, I'm gonna feel cute in the actual event. I want to give you a tip that if you're going to invest in anything, invest in yourself. I knew I was going to feel uncomfortable if I had an ugly, raggedy pajama, like crusty, dusty, mismatched socks or something. I knew that I was going to show up at the door and be like, please don't open. Please don't let me in. Hey. What's that one meme that's like, hey, how y'all doing? Hey. How y'all doing? But I did my makeup, I did my hair, I took my sweet time getting ready, hyping myself up in the car, you know, singing some music on the way there. I had to psych myself up. I had to really just put myself in the mindset of, okay, I'm gonna show up, I'm gonna be friendly, I'm gonna be nice, I'm gonna not be scared, and I'm gonna have a good time. When I got there, there was only one other girl. I showed up right on time. There was one other girl and she was waiting in her car because she didn't want to walk in there by herself. So she was waiting for somebody else to show up. And so she popped out and she was like, "Hey, like, have you ever done something like this?" And I was like, "No, I'm scared." But she popped out and she introduced herself to me and I was like, "Okay, cool. I can check that box off. I know somebody here now, even though it's a stranger and even though we know very little about each other. I know somebody here. Period." She told me how she was so nervous and how she was just waiting for another person to show up so she didn't have to walk in alone. And that was lesson number 2. These girls are just as nervous as I was. Not all of them will be oozing high confidence. They're doing these events even if they're scared. It proved to me that you are allowed to feel uncomfortable, but you don't have to let it hold you back, especially when trying new things out. Confidence is not a requirement to be an influencer. I know this can sound like a dumb moment, but for me, I just hadn't really thought about how some of these girls that I watch online or influencers or whatever, they're doing things even if they're kind of uncomfortable or even if they're nervous about it, they're still showing up and they're still putting in the work. And so we went into the event and everything was set up really cute. It was really pretty. They had like this whole backyard set up. Everything was matching in color, everything bright pink, you know, champagne bottles. It was so cute. But to be honest, the organizers were kind of behind. They took another hour and a half to fully finish setting everything up, and they kept like apologizing. They kept being like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, like we're almost done." This was a new small business and the owners looked about my age. They didn't have a lot of experience and they also kind of just looked like they were figuring things out as they went as well. They were doing their best and I am in no way trying to bash them for having to take extra time. But I'm saying this to say, like, how are you going to grow if you keep limiting yourself because of your imposter syndrome? These ladies were hosting their very first backyard cinema event for us. We were totally fine. We were fine. We were laughing, we were chatting, we were talking about weird Hinge dates. We were just getting to know each other. We were just chatting it up, having a good time. Everybody was good. It didn't really matter that things weren't going along perfectly, and I'm sure the organizers of the event also were taking like mental notes, like, okay, when this happens, we're gonna do this. If this falls over, this is how we pivot, whatever. Like, their setup came out really pretty anyway. I learned that if one day I have a business or I try to host an event or something, what really matters is the vibes. The vibes. It doesn't have to be perfect. It does not. Lesson number 3, if things go differently than planned, it's okay. It's okay. And you don't have to be perfect to start. You just have to start. And then you can tweak it. You can get better at it. And then there was another lesson to be learned. Not all of these girls had a super big following. For some of them, influencing wasn't even really part of their content. It wasn't like the main content that they were pushing out. Some of them were photographers, models, singers. Like, they all had that element of creating in their content, but like not all of them were advertising themselves as influencers. I felt more comfortable with them because I no longer felt like I was out of place, like I was this little spy in here being like, yes, I'm an influencer, yes, of course. And I no longer felt that way because some of the girls also, they didn't really do content like that anyway. And it was actually kind of funny because I was the only one in this event, including the business, who grew up here. Like, all these girls were they were from out of state. I was the only one who was raised in Florida. I asked everybody, I was like, well, what brought you here? And they all said the beach, duh. I was like, oh, period. I guess the beach is pretty nice, but like, you moved here by yourself? And I think that just made me realize like there was a growing influencer community in this area that I didn't really clock. I just didn't really notice that people were moving here still. And a lot of them said that the reason they had moved here is because they had found out about the area from online. I was like, oh, people are spreading the word. But it really made me realize that I need to take full advantage of the pretty scenery that we have here and not take it for granted that I live in a pretty place. I need to be outside, is what I learned. But I think it's really important to take all the opportunities that I can get. It would have been really easy for me to just flake out on the event, especially after my coworkers said they weren't going to go. And a lot of girls did. The initial chat had about 15 girls who had committed to going to this event prior. And before the event, about half of them had dropped out and said something along the lines of like, I'm so sorry, like I wish I would have known, like my bad. And so really it was only about 8 of us who showed up. But when you think about it, there are so many businesses out there. There's so many brands that are just trying to get the word out and stand out in a world full of other brands and businesses. And there's a lot of opportunities out there if you're willing to look for people who want photos or some type of content or little reels. There's so many people out there who are willing to pay you even to talk about them. You have very little to lose by just asking and reaching out to a brand. And my like core motivation is that I knew I was going to regret not going to the event more so than I would regret going and like wasting my time. I knew I was going to regret just staying in bed and watching TV or whatever else I was going to do. I knew I was going to like beat myself up for the next couple days, being like, I should have gone to that. Like, why didn't I go to that? I should have. And the girls were all awesome. They were all super nice. I really liked spending time with them. And this is in no way intended to bash them. But I think I had a realization while I was sitting there in like a little circle having a little chit chat with everybody. The convo kind of changed into a discussion about what we liked about each other. We're like, oh, I love your hair, I love your fit, I love your makeup, blah blah blah, like giving each other compliments. I think we were having a little bit too much champagne, but I feel like that's pretty normal to be like, girl, you look so good today, just chatting with your friends. But it kind of turned into this weird convo about where everybody had bought their stuff from. And maybe like, duh, like they're influencers, this is what they do. They probably have affiliate links, they have promo codes, whatever. Like, I just thought it was kind of bizarre. They started talking about all the cheap dupes that they buy. I forgot the name of the brand. It's not um LTK, it's something else, like a dupe brand. I forgot the name of it. Shows how much I was paying attention. But they were all talking about how they load up their car on Shein and they spend hundreds of dollars, like always trying to get the most out of their coin, and they return things a lot to kind of make it look like they have a real Louis bag when really it was like $15 or something like that. And I was sitting there like, what? That is crazy. I don't do that. I don't like that. But I kept my mouth shut and I was like, yeah, okay. I was used to getting fed ads online and like promos all the time, but it really hadn't happened to me in person. I don't think I've ever had an unironic chat with a friend where she sends me the link to what I complimented her on. I've never really had that experience. I always tell my friends, like, you girl, you look good, you look so pretty, I love that dress on you, but never had the intention of actually buying the exact same dress that she's wearing. But that's what these girls were doing. They were like, oh, I love those shoes, where are those shoes? And they would put it to cart and then they bought it on the spot right then and there. I was like, huh? You you're just gonna buy it like that? Okay. Like, now I was like, I don't want to feel pressured to buy what I just complimented somebody on, because I didn't actually want to buy it. I just said it looked pretty on her? I realized that these girls who want to be influencers and actually sell products are doing this in person too. They're actually influencing each other. It made me think about how I view content online. Whenever I see a promo code, I scroll away. I don't even give the person a chance to speak to me. When they say walk, don't run, I scroll away. It really just like irks me. I don't want every single second that I'm on TikTok to be an ad. But I guess there has to be girls who actually buy the things that these girls are influencing you to buy, because I guess companies wouldn't really waste their time on somebody who's not bringing in the coin. It made me realize that I think these influencers are actually selling to other influencers who also want to emulate that kind of style, not so much like the common audience, like everybody online. And I really mean this without any judgment. Get your bag, get your coin. If that's something you're interested in and you're really good at it, go ahead. There's so much money to be made. But I thought about younger me and how I was easily impressed when I was younger and I would watch those like old school YouTube gurus. I already didn't have that much coin, but if somebody said this $80 lip gloss is going to change your life and I trusted their opinion, I would believe them and I would go out and I would spend my last dollars on this $80 lip gloss that I didn't need, just because somebody told me, oh my God, it's the best product in the world. Little me would be like, duh, yeah, I want that. Let me go get it. And I really didn't even have the money to be spending like that. I didn't need a lip gloss. And all the while, the makeup YouTuber was actually making a coin behind the scenes, that I didn't realize they were making money off of influencing me. And I've worked in retail and I've worked as a saleswoman. These jobs really drained the life out of me. I wanted nothing else to do but to get out of those stores. I didn't enjoy it. I wasn't good at it. I hated it. And I actually really sucked at them. I couldn't sell you a freaking bottle of water? So I hadn't really put two and two together that influencers were just aesthetic salespeople. They're also selling you their brand. To me, influencing other people to spend their hard earned coin on something they don't really need just didn't really sit right with me. I'm glad I saw this kind of early on, because I hadn't really given it much thought, like the ethics behind being an influencer. It made me kind of mad, kind of uneasy, uncomfortable, but it made me realize that that's not really what I want to be. I didn't want to be an influencer. I don't want to tell you to buy something that I don't believe you should buy. I want to be an online presence that sparks joy, that shares moments of her life, who tries to inspire people, be creative, artistic, blah, blah, blah. Like, I want to do that. I kind of want to be like the type of person that younger me would have wanted to see. I don't want to add more noise and tell you to buy something. This was working really well for the other girls at the event, but this really made me realize the difference between being a content creator and influencing. And I I realized I might have been thinking about this whole YouTube content really differently, and it was time to pivot. I knew being an influencer wasn't really going to make me happy. Lastly, you have to remember that almost everybody out here is just winging it. No one really knows what the hell they're doing. This whole business of influencing and content creation is super new. There's no guidelines, there's no check boxes. Like, we don't have like a full idea of what a career in this space even looks like, especially now with the introduction of AI. Like, don't even get me started. It freaks me out so much. I could go on and on about what that looks like to me, but I'm not going to talk about that. But we're all just really winging it out here. I hope that me telling you guys what I learned will help somebody out there. I haven't really seen much content on this topic. I've seen it for content creators who are kind of on the bigger scale, who've already had a mass following. I really haven't seen it as like a very beginner point of view. I think there's so many cool opportunities out there, especially if you want to become a content creator or an influencer. The content creation world is growing so big, so rapidly, and I think it's going to start changing. If I'm being honest, I think brands are going to start pivoting from UGC creators or people who purposefully curate their content to be able to sell to people. I think there's going to be a big shift in that space, because I just don't really see people really caring about influencers pushing products anymore. I think people are more interested now in the authentic creation and in a space with ChatGPT and AI and stuff like that. Like, if you need recommendations, you could just Google it, you could just ChatGPT it, and it doesn't, at least to me, it doesn't seem very authentic anymore when I click on somebody's profile and they tell me that this is the best water bottle they have, and I click on their profile and they said that about 20 other water bottles. And it just makes me think like, do you really like this product, or is rent just due? I don't know if I'm alone on that, but I do think that content creation is on the rise. And so if you're interested in trying it out, I really urge you to at least try it. Like, there's not much you can lose. I hope you found this helpful. And if you did, it would really mean a lot to me if you guys supported me by subscribing or liking or commenting on this. I am a really new YouTuber and I'm trying to grow. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Mwah!